Hey guys, I'm Kate, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking books. And more specifically my TBR for February, which is one of the months that I will be participating in the Blackout. I'll be semi-joining / semi-following in her lead, Denise D. Cooper, over on her channel, and also Amy's vlog about books for pointing me in that direction. I will link both of those lovely ladies down below if you would like to check them out, which I highly recommend you do because Denise is actually doing like a Blackout for the full year of 2018, and she also has more specific rules for things like the number of women authors she's wanting to read and the number of indie authors. If you're like, Kate, WTF is a Blackout? Denise created it and it's more or less reading books exclusively by Black authors. This is super important for a myriad of reasons, not limited to the fact that inclusivity needs to encompass more than just the characters that we're reading, but also extend to the writers who are creating, and we need more of their stories, period. So in honor of that, this will be my first month participating in the Blackout. I hope to do it at least 1 or 2 more times this year, and I've already curated my TBR for this month and I am so freaking excited. One of these books I've already read because it is February 2nd and I could not contain myself, so I'll wait to talk about it until the end of the month, but just know that I loved it. Loved it. And that book is All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Kiely. This book, y'all, this book. This is actually the first book that I've read by Jason Reynolds, and I have no idea why, because he's actually one of the authors that inspired like the things that I learned from writers last year. I made a whole video on that, which I will link up above and down below if you would like to check it out. This book is told in 2 alternating points of view, which is really cool because the way they do it is that they're not interacting every other chapter. It's actually one cohesive story told from 2 like characters that really don't interact much. It's really interesting because I don't feel like you read a lot of those stories, and it's awesome. I'm going to quote the Goodreads synopsis so that you have more of an idea about what the book is actually about. Rashad and Quinn, one black, one white, both American, face the unspeakable truth that racism and prejudice didn't die after the civil rights movement. There's a future at stake. A future where no one else will have to be absent because of police brutality. They just have to risk everything to change the world. So you kind of get the weight of the novel. I really want to move on to Jason's track series next, which is the book that he was promoting when I got to see him at a book festival, and also the one that like kind of inspired the lesson that I learned from him last year. And then Brendan Kiely has a really cool new book coming out called Tradition, which is like a boarding school book, which I am just trash for. I love anything to do with boarding schools. I just do. But it also centers around male privilege and consent, and after reading All American Boys, I trust that it will also be phenomenal. Moving right along, the second book on my TBR this month is Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist, which I do own somewhere on these shelves. I'm really sad that I couldn't find it when I was looking for it when I sat down with my camera, which is probably not a good sign. I honestly don't know what I'm doing that I haven't read this book yet. I follow her on Twitter and her Twitter's great, so what is my life? Bad Feminist is a collection of essays which is already up my general alley, but it also centers on like feminism and being a woman of color, and also how our culture shapes us and how we then shape our culture, and it just sounds fantastic, so I'm hoping that I can find it, and if not, checking it out from the library. For a new release, the third book on my TBR this month is The Bells by Dhonielle Clayton. It is slated to come out actually on the 6th of this month, and I am so excited. There is so much hype surrounding this book. I also went to another book festival that Dhonielle was at, and she just freaking rocks. And I was actually listening to the panel that she was on with Sona, I think. They've co-written a book series together, which I also haven't read, so what am I doing with my time? I don't know. The series they wrote together is called Tiny Pretty Things, but they were giving advice on how to co-write a book together, which is super relevant to me because I'm co-writing a story with my best friend, and it was just really cool to like hear the advice they were giving and also like feel how relatable some of the struggles were. And so just to see that she's written this new book, I'm so excited. She's another author who is super active on Twitter, and she's also the COO of We Need Diverse Books, so Dhonielle's just getting at it. I'm not actually sure that I can aptly describe what The Bells is about, but it's set in this place called Orleans with the accent over the E, so I'm not entirely sure how she means for us to pronounce it. But basically, everyone born there is gray and damned, but Bells, like our main character, can help transform people into a thing of beauty, and beauty is actually also like their currency, and so that's the basic setup and setting of the story. But then the queen calls our main character up to court, and she wants her to do something that the Bells magic wasn't originally intended for, but also maybe there's more magic than she was aware of, and I don't know. I haven't read the book yet, but it sounds so promising. I am most looking forward to the world building, but also a lot of the earlier reviews that I was reading were using words like swoon, and I could really use a swoon-worthy romance in some of my YA books because, gonna be honest, haven't read any good ones recently. In fact, I've been kind of avoiding romance in YA books because I feel like I've been let down. I've been let down too many times, so I have high hopes that this one will be the one to end that streak. The fourth book on my TBR this month is by Nnedi Okorafor, which I have mentioned before in one of my videos when I was discussing about my need to read YA books that are not based in the US, and I never got around to this one because I'm a scrub. I don't know. I've actually already started it, and like the others, this is legitimately happening this month. So I will link down below the video where I talked about this book before. And I also want to read the book Binti by her. So there's really just a lot of catching up for me to do, and I love that. And the final book on my TBR this month is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Goodreads starts off their description by saying, "This is the way the world ends. Again." Sign me the F up. I'm ready. I didn't need to read the rest of the description, although I did, and it just sounds even more intriguing. It's also a Hugo nominated, which I don't know a whole lot about the different writing awards, but I've heard of that one before, so sounds like it'll be doubly good. I've also heard the world building on this story is just like next level, and I'm actually like a little bit scared, maybe that's the wrong word, but it's definitely more high fantasy and like heavier sci-fi potentially than I'm used to. Just like, I've heard that you need to get past the first 50 pages or so because you really need to stick with it, because once you understand the way the world works and the different vocabulary, like, you're totally sucked in. But that's usually what keeps me from reading some books like that. But this one just sounds so good that I'm gonna make it past the 50 pages. Mark my words. As of today, I think I'm actually on track to finish all 5 books in the month of February, which would be great for me because 5 books is a little bit higher than I typically shoot for, so fingers crossed I got it this month. Again, shout out to Denise for starting this. Do go check out her channel. She's been on BookTube for a long time, and she's just got like so many awesome reviews and recommendations and book talks, and you will be doing yourself a favor if you go check her out. Click down below. Down below. I'm back. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna get back to reading, and I will see y'all very soon with the new video. Bye. What are my hands doing? What the fuck is all this? I've also heard the world building. I've also heard the... But I could also have a prompt. And more specifically, my... OMG. I cannot talk.